Far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro scores a big win in the Brazilian election, but not enough to avoid a runoff. Hello, I'm Nathan King, sitting in for Anna Naidu, and this is The Heat. Rightly or wrongly, he's been dubbed the Brazilian Trump, and like the US president, Jair Bolsonaro's candidacy wasn't taken seriously by everyone at first, but with a tough stance on crime and corruption, he won support despite controversial views on democracy and minorities. And when the votes were counted, Bolsonaro came close to winning the presidential election in the first round. CGTN's Lucrecia Franco has more from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil.
Bolsonaro supporters celebrate victory, even if their candidate's 46% of the vote wasn't enough to put him over the top in the first round. In keeping with past statements, the candidate himself alleged fraud.
I am certain that if this problem hadn't happened, we would already know the name of Brazil's next president.
Bolsonaro will be facing off against Fernando Haddad of the Workers' Party. Haddad received only 29% of the vote, but said a runoff would give voters a reprieve to reflect on the future of Brazil's democracy.
The opportunity of a second round that the people gave us is inestimable, especially in 2018, and we need to make the most of it.
Roughly 112 million out of 147 million eligible Brazilian voters cast ballots on Sunday. In a country where voting is mandatory, 29% of voters abstained, left their ballots blank, or voided them. Brazil's deep political divide was evident. Paula Pimenta, an architect dressed in red, the color of the Workers' Party, said she was afraid for her country.
I am voting against Bolsonaro, against the madness he represents, and for Haddad because we need to defend all the rights we have won with the Workers' Party.
But Luciano Marinho, a hairdresser wearing a Bolsonaro t-shirt, said he was fed up with politics as usual.
Life in Brazil is very difficult these days, and that is why I am voting for Bolsonaro, to see if he sweeps away all the corrupt politicians.
Other voters were reluctant to reveal their vote publicly because they said doing so risks creating problems with their families and their neighbors. Some observers say the country could be set to explode.
I have never seen Brazilians so angry and so full of hate with each other. And what is happening now is that Bolsonaro is forcing us to see the real face of Brazil and how that expresses in violence against minorities, in very bad things that he's saying, and that the people are responding to that.
Scenes like this one will be repeated in 3 weeks in the runoff set to take place on October 28. Tensions are likely to rise between now and the decisive vote. What many analysts consider an almost certain Bolsonaro victory is unlikely to change that, because the two sides are so far apart. Lucrecia Franco, CGTN, Rio de Janeiro.